I am Ruth Miller, 68, and I sew because hands tell the truth better than speeches. 6 months ago my granddaughter Laura announced a May wedding at the Riverfront Hotel with the wide staircase everyone photographs. I offered one thing I could afford. A wedding dress made by me. No mystery, no poetry. Just hours I was willing to trade for a promise that the person I love would feel carried, not costumed. I planned quickly and spent carefully. Pattern. Drafted from brown paper on my dining table, shaped to Laura's last measurements. Fabric. Ivory satin that behaves under an iron, not the kind that fights you. Lace. A single motif with clean repeats so I could match it at the waist without waste. Thread. Silk for the hem, polyester for seams. Strength where stress lives, beauty where eyes land. Needles, boning, zipper, hooks. All listed in a notebook with dates and prices. When a choice was between price and integrity, integrity won. When a choice was between flourish and fit, fit won. I worked on a schedule I could keep. 2 hours before my knees stiffened, 1 hour after lunch when light was honest across the table, 90 minutes in the evening when the house went quiet. I unpicked what puckered. I recut what pulled. I pressed every seam open until the cloth lay flat like a good decision. I didn't add ruffles because ruffles are apologies for patterns that don't know what they want. I didn't add a train that would bully the bride's steps. I cut the skirt to move when a person moves and stop when a person stops. Call it older woman engineering. I built for reality. I told Laura only what she needed to know. That the dress would be ready, that I had it under control, that she could focus on her side of the work. License, guest list, vows. She came twice to sit and talk while I basted. The first time she brought iced tea and worry about chair counts. The second time she brought a Pinterest photo of a boutique gown with a beaded belt. I looked once and put the picture under a cookbook magnet on the fridge. Details cost money and time, I said. We'll spend both where they matter. She kissed my cheek, called me her miracle worker, and left before traffic. I kept the dress plain where plain is graceful and precise where precision is invisible. French seams inside because raw edges scratch. Stay tape at the neckline because photographs should not show drag. A waist stay because nerves pull. Hand-rolled hem not because anyone would check but because a clean edge makes a clean walk. I placed a short line of pearls at the front, 3 on one side, 3 on the other, not to shine but to mark center the way a carpenter marks true. If Laura forgot to breathe, those 6 dots would remind her where to stand herself back up. The costs fit inside what I could sacrifice. I delayed replacing a coat. I skipped the coffee I don't need. I mended my old iron again. That is not tragedy, that is choosing. I did not tell Laura numbers because gifts do not bill. I did not tell the Harris family anything because they did not ask. I kept my part of this quiet. Build the thing, make it good, deliver on time. The week before the wedding I finished the interior. The lining sat smooth against the bodice. The zipper closed without complaint. The skirt hung straight. I gave myself 1 day to rest my eyes and hands, then packed the dress with acid-free tissue, 2 lavender sachets, and a note pinned low inside the lining where only a person who wears it would find it. Asterisk for standing up straight when it matters. Asterisk no flourish. Just 5 words that summarized 6 months of duty. On rehearsal morning I put on a blue dress that forgives, shoes I can manage, and a cardigan with pockets big enough for needles, thread, small scissors, safety pins, chalk, and ibuprofen. The garment bag went in the back seat upright, belted. I left early, parked on the 3rd level to avoid door dings, and carried the bag by the hanger, not the zipper, because zippers fail at the worst moment and I don't supply chances to fail. The bridal suite was like most people who cost per hour, moving with purpose, racks of robes, coolers of water with floating lemon. I do not admire or resent that. It is just one way of doing a day. Laura hugged me, kissed my cheek, and pointed at a corner where I could unzip in peace. I opened the bag, shook the skirt once, and the cloth remembered exactly what it was meant to do. Several heads turned for the right reasons. The drape, the proportion, the fact that it looked like it belonged to a person, not a catalog. Laura touched the neckline with 2 fingers and whispered, "Gran." I said nothing because a good dress should talk first. Then Mrs. Barbara Harris came close enough to be in the conversation without asking to enter it. She is precise. Posture, hair, voice, all neat. She said, "How thoughtful." And the room learned how to hear that phrase. The planner, sensing a decision, hovered. The photographer, smelling an image repositioned. I did not flinch. I have been present at many decisions and have learned not to teach grown people how to value what they have been given. We tried the dress. It fit where fit matters: shoulder, bust, waist, length. The mirror did its job. Laura exhaled like a person who stopped negotiating with herself. I secured the last hook and stepped back so the image in the glass belonged to her. Barbara said, "Let's not commit yet. The boutique held a gown for us that aligns with the venue." Aligns was the word. Aligns with staircase, align with photographs, align with people who read labels the way other people read vows. Laura looked at me. I nodded once. I will not trap a young woman between her grandmother and her future, not with an audience and a microphone in the planner's ear. "I'll step into the hall," I said. "Call if you need alterations." I lifted my dress, my work, off the pedestal and into the garment bag. No size. No speeches. The bag zipped, the hanger hook turned, my feet moved. I have had a lifetime's practice exiting a room without making the wrong person a villain. The door did not click shut. It stayed open the width of a finger. Voices travel through that width. I did not lean in. I did not press my ear. I stood 6 inches from the frame and heard what one must sometimes hear to be certain about where to place one's feet next. "Barbara. Here we are. That's the silhouette we discussed. It will photograph beautifully on the staircase." "Laura. But Gran's, Barbara. No need to upset her. If she asks, we'll say it didn't fit." Laura, quieter. "If Gran asks, I'll say it doesn't fit." A small laugh followed, the kind people use to make words seem smaller than they are. I have no commentary on that moment, only the facts. A statement was offered. It was accepted. A plan to protect a preference with a gentle lie was adopted. I moved 3 steps back so when the next thing happened, the choice dressed in someone else's silk, I would not be in the way. Laura emerged 10 minutes later wearing a boutique gown with a label that made the planner smile, and the photographer adjust settings without being told. It looked like the hotel. It looked like the budget someone else approved. It looked like a decision complete. "Gran," she said, eyes unsure, "we think this one works better for the photos." I said, "Photos have their needs." I did not offer my opinion on what marriage needs. She did not ask, and that is also a fact. "I'll take this home," I added. I folded what I made the way flags are folded, corner to corner, precise, honoring the labor even when the audience left. Barbara said, "Do let me know if we should cover any expenses." I said, "I have it." Laura said, "I love you." I said, "Stand tall." Then I left. At home I unzipped the bag, spread the dress on the table, and reset the room to normal. Called no one. I wrote no posts. I brewed tea. Not to comfort myself, to occupy my hands while my mind performed its audit. Expectations set, promises kept, outcome accepted, respect withdrawn where respect was not required by duty. I did not change the past 6 months into waste. Work done well does not become trash because an audience prefers a louder song. I moved the dress to the guest room and closed the door. That is where part 1 ends, with a gift intact, an answer received, and a line that I will not cross, pleading for a place I already earned. I do not make threats. I make plans. The morning after the rehearsal I made one. The dress would not sit in a closet to sour. It would be worn by someone who would treat it like a promise, not a prop. To find that person, I did not post on the internet. I did not dramatize. I began with the closest competent observer I know. My neighbor Jenny, 30, alteration shop assistant, steady hands, clean eye. She knocked her usual 3 beats, stepped into my kitchen, saw the dress on the table, and said the most useful sentence a person can say in a house holding disappointment. "May I help?" I laid out the facts in under 2 minutes. Made the dress, fit was correct, preference changed, polite lie prepared. Jenny nodded once and said, "I know who needs this." Her friend Kate, librarian, engaged. Backyard ceremony in 8 weeks. Budget thin, character sound. Jenny did not pitch a sob story. She offered a match. "Bring her at 3, I said. "The light is good then." I ironed the hem again, set out pins, loaded a threaded needle, and placed a white sheet over the rug to keep the fabric clean. When I invite a solution into my house, I prepare the space as if it will arrive. Kate arrived with clean shoes, washed hands, and a face that read, "I don't want to impose and I hope this is real" at once. She said, "I can't pay what this is worth." I answered. Worth is not today's topic. Fit is. We tried the bodice. It closed at the back without strain. We checked shoulder to waist, true. Waist to floor, needed half an inch. I marked, hemmed, and pressed while she stood, because speed tells a person you are not performing generosity for gratitude. You are doing a transaction. My surplus meets your need. She cried once quietly, then stopped herself and said, I'm sorry. I said, apology doesn't help. She laughed, breathed, and looked in the mirror like a person confirming her face. I will take care of this dress, she said. I will take care of my marriage, she added, unprompted. And that told me enough about the person wearing it. We wrote a simple receipt on a notepad. Asterisk wedding dress, gifted by maker to bride, for $1 paid, no return expected, alterations by maker included. Asterisk she placed a dollar bill on the counter with both hands. I put it in the sugar bowl. We shook hands. Jenny exhaled like someone who had held her breath for 3 months and finally got to set it down. I pinned a small card inside the lining where Laura's note had been intended to live. I did not remove the original. I left it. The card I added read, asterisk wear with kindness. It changes how satin moves. Asterisk that is the only instruction I have for brides. By dinner time the work was done. Hem adjusted, bustle loops reinforced, straps checked. I packed the dress again, same tissue, same sachets, and handed it to Kate with the hanger turned so it wouldn't catch on a car seat. She stood on my porch holding 6 months of my life and said, I won't forget this. I said, good. Don't. Not as a threat. As a rule. Remember what changes your path and protect it accordingly. News travels the way it wants. I did not tell Laura what I had done. Abby did, most likely, or a vendor. Or the natural gravity that pulls stories toward people who need to hear them. 2 days later Laura called. The screen lit with her name. I answered on the second ring. I did not open with comfort. I opened with, what do you need? She said, I should have chosen your dress. I said, that sentence is about regret, not repair. She asked if the dress was still at my house. I said, it isn't. Silence. Then she asked the smartest question she asked that week. Did you give it to someone who would wear it the way it deserves? I said, yes. She breathed out. Then at least the work is in the world. I love you, she said next, voice small. I said, I know. Because love is not the issue under review when a person chooses ease over courage in a room full of cameras. What we needed to discuss was respect. And the value of telling the truth, even when it knocks a photograph off balance. We can talk after the wedding, I added. Today you have a ceremony to finish preparing. She thanked me for answering. I said, you're welcome, and ended the call. Barbara texted an hour later from a number I did not store. Asterisk we hope there are no hard feelings. You will of course be seated near family. Asterisk I replied. Asterisk I will attend the ceremony and leave after the recessional. Please seat me where you do not need to defend me. Asterisk there was no reply. That was efficient. The wedding proceeded without my commentary. Laura looked lovely because she is lovely. A dress cannot hide or invent character. I sat on the aisle, stood when told, smiled at the vows, did not stay for the staged dances. I did not walk behind anyone's head table seeking a photograph. I kissed my granddaughter's forehead and told Daniel, take care of my girl. He said, yes ma'am, and I filed that under words I will revisit in 3 years to see if the actions matched. At home I opened my notebook and closed the account labeled wedding dress for Laura. Under the final line I wrote a summary any auditor would accept. Asterisk delivered work to the world. Relationship to be assessed later on conduct, not crisis. Asterisk I slept without replaying conversations. When work is finished and boundaries are explicit, sleep returns. That is the body's way of confirming you kept your side of the bargain with yourself. 3 days after the ceremony, a florist delivered a bouquet of peonies and a card that read only thank you. No signature. Flowers are nice. Conduct is better. I watered them and went back to my life. Jenny and I set a time to mend a neighbor's suit. Kate texted a photograph of the dress hanging on a closet door with sunlight on the satin like a promise laid out flat. Under it she wrote, asterisk vows under the pecan tree next month. You're invited if you want to be, no pressure. Asterisk I said. Asterisk I'll come if my knees cooperate. Asterisk, she replied with a smile and a picture of lawn chairs lined up straight. People who care about chairs usually care about people. Laura called again, this time to apologize without conditions. I made a coward's choice, she said. I let a room talk louder than my gut. I did not offer absolution like a coupon. I said, what will you do next time a room gets loud? She said, pick my side early and say it out loud. That was the first useful sentence of her adult marriage. We talked 20 minutes about how to interrupt a momentum you don't want. Stand, state, repeat, stop. I told her the exact phrase to use when a helpful person tries to take the wheel. Asterisk, I heard your suggestion, I'm choosing elsewise. Asterisk, short, polite, final. She wrote it down. That is how you know someone intends to use a tool. Barbara did not call. That saved both of us time. One more thing required clean handling. Gifts. I had planned a monetary envelope to be tucked into Laura's hand with a sentence about groceries, insurance, and the dull bills that keep a home upright. I redirected it. Half went to Kate and her partner to cover chair rentals and a decent sound system so their vows could be heard by older ears. Half went into a new envelope at my church labeled Stitching Fund for brides who bring me thrifted dresses and not enough money for alterations. I wrote a rule for myself in the notebook margin. Asterisk, do not force a gift where it is not valued. Flow it toward good use. Asterisk, I am old enough to enforce my own rules. A week later Laura stopped by alone, no cameras, no schedule. We sat at my table with tea and she asked to read the notebook pages where I planned the dress. I let her. She ran her fingers down the columns of costs and time blocks and said, soft but clear, I didn't pay attention to what love looks like when it's doing its job. I said, attention is what we pay. You can always spend it better tomorrow. She cried then once and I handed her a towel because tissue crumbles and I don't run a crumbling operation. Before she left she said she told Barbara a boundary. No more backup plans that start with lying to people we love. I said, we'll see. Not because I doubted her, but because boundaries are not speeches. They are fences you mend every time someone tests them. She kissed my cheek and went home to start mending. The same afternoon Jenny asked if I'd sit with her at Kate's final fitting and help her pin the bustle. I said yes on 2 conditions. Start on time and end on time. We did. The dress behaved. Kate practiced walking in grass. We taught her partner how to lift the hem with 2 fingers and never let it drag. He learned fast. People do when they are focused on the right thing. I slept again that night without replaying the hotel. The mind loves relitigating moments that can't be retried. I redirect it. Check the hem, check the lock, check the kettle bed. Tomorrow will need steadiness more than memory. The story had already pivoted where it needed to. Away from a room that measured people by photographs, toward a yard where people measured themselves by promises. Kate's wedding afternoon came warm and bright. Folding chairs, a rented arch, a Bluetooth speaker that did its job. I arrived 10 minutes early, sat near the aisle, and kept a small sewing kit in my purse because sewing kits prevent emergencies from pretending to be fate. The dress fit as it had in my living room. The hem cleared the grass. The bustle loops held. When vows began, the speaker worked and the birds did not outsing them. That is success. After the kiss, during lemonade and grocery store cupcakes, 3 different women touched the lace and asked the right kind of question. Who made this? Kate pointed at me. I said, I only assembled it. The bride made it a wedding dress. That is not modesty, it is math. A dress is cloth until vows convert it. The women asked if I take work. I said yes with limits. I do not rush, I do not copy, and I do not argue with bodies. If you accept those rules, I will cut and stitch and deliver on time. 2 booked consultations on the spot, cash deposits, names and dates in my notebook. Work appears when you aim your effort where it can land. Laura texted me a photograph while I sat under the pecan tree. Her hand over a catalog of honeymoon expenses and a sticky note that said, asterisk next time I will ask you first. Asterisk I answered, asterisk next time bring your calendar, not a committee. Asterisk she responded with a heart. Emojis are not policy, but they can indicate direction. Kate's father thanked me for the dress in 6 sentences. 1 for gratitude, 1 for the budget I saved, 1 for the way the skirt moved when his daughter walked on grass, 1 for my time, 1 for respecting theirs, 1 for the way my seams will last through photographs they haven't taken yet. That is a complete thank you. I went home with sun on my forearms and 3 business cards in my pocket. Useful day. 2 weeks later, Laura and Daniel visited for dinner without Barbara. That was the condition. I set plates, served food that fills without showing off, and placed the notebook on the table between salt and pepper. After we ate, I opened to the pages with the dress. Here is the time. Here is the money. Here is the standard I held. Here is where I bent and where I didn't. Here is what I expect of adults who receive this kind of work. Honesty and courage. Last month, I got neither in a room where I should have had both. I kept my voice level. I did not ask for confessions. I presented the ledger. Daniel said he was sorry. I said, I accept your words. I will accept your change later if it arrives. He nodded. Laura apologized again, not looping it into a speech this time. She said, I told Mother no more last-minute backups that require untruth. If she tries again, we will leave the room and keep the decision we already made. That is a boundary stated with a verb. Will. I wrote the sentence down and dated it. Accountability needs timestamps. I then addressed the lie planned on my behalf. If something you choose does not fit, you may say so. If the truth would embarrass you, choose different. Do not ask me to carry the embarrassment for you. Daniel said, Understood. Laura said, Understood. I said, Good. Eat dessert. We did. After dishes, I handed Laura a zipper bag with basic tools. Needle book, small scissors, safety pins, a short roll of stay tape, chalk. Make a small kit, I said. Adults carry what they need to fix what they choose. She put it in her purse without taking a photo for show. They left at 9. I closed the door and wrote in the notebook, Asterisk apologies made. Boundaries stated. Monitor over months, not days. Asterisk that is how results become habits. I did not get my original moment. Laura walking an aisle in the dress I made. I got a different result. The dress walked an aisle anyway and did the job it was built to do. In return, I got a granddaughter who is learning to choose out loud, a son-in-law who knows the value of a complete sentence, a neighbor who is now my business partner 2 afternoons a week, and a new rule for my house. Love in this place is measured by conduct. Jenny and I set up a clear system. Tuesday and Thursday, 2 appointments each, 30 minutes consultation, deposit required, deadlines that leave space for emergencies. I do not take rush orders. I do not accept inspo photos without permission from the original designer. I would rather finish 4 good dresses than panic through 8. The stitching fund covers brides who can pay only in gratitude and a pie for my freezer. I do not advertise. People who need me seem to find me. Perhaps because I answer my phone and say yes with conditions instead of no with attitude. Laura texts photos of dinner she cooks, budgets she keeps, and the small mends she makes to her own clothes now. A button thread secured, a hem restitched, a seam reinforced where her bag rubs. She has not brought Barbara back into this conversation. That is wise. If Barbara wishes to be included, she can apply with behavior, not access.